By the time Daniel misses dinner for the third night in a row, the squashes I roasted for him have started to feel like I'm meal prepping for a ghost who still texts. The oven timer dings. The house smells faintly of rosemary and something burnt, and outside, the sprinklers hiss across every perfect lawn on our cul-de-sac. We live in Briar Lane Estates, a place where hydrangeas bloom like gossip, and every mailbox is painted the same shade of beige, as if conformity were a zoning requirement. Before we dive deeper into the story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I stare at the empty place across from me at the table. His wine glass, untouched, catches the reflection of the chandelier, and I imagine it judging me. I could pour myself another, but that would make it look like I'm waiting, and I stopped waiting 2 dinners ago. I pull out my phone, scroll through messages that have gone from running late, don't wait up, to complete silence. Daniel's phone always faces down now. Apparently, financial advisors need secrecy to manage portfolios and text etiquette to manage wives. I slide the plate of roasted vegetables into a container, label it with masking tape, habit from architecture projects, and place it neatly in the fridge. Architects don't like waste. We catalogue everything, even disappointment. From outside, I hear Claire's SUV pull into our driveway. Daniel's sister has a habit of arriving precisely when irritation hits its peak, like she's tuned into a secret broadcast frequency of my patience. Her heels click up the walkway before I even reach the door. "Sophie," she sings through the glass. "I was just in the neighborhood." Translation: she drove 15 minutes out of her way to supervise me. I open the door. "Lucky neighborhood," I say. She breezes in, air kiss ready, already assessing the foyer. Claire dresses like a lifestyle magazine spread. Navy blazer, pearls, a whiff of power disguised as perfume. "I wanted to check how you're doing," she says, stepping around me to inspect the living room. "Daniel's been so busy. These client events, never ending." "So I've heard," I reply, shutting the door. "I'm fine, just working. I have a kitchen remodel in Beacon Hill keeping me occupied." She perches on the arm of our couch. "You should come to the charity circle on Thursday. It's important to stay visible when your husband's career is growing." Her tone carries that subtle warning I've come to recognize. Stay decorative or risk irrelevance. "I'll think about it," I say, which in my language means never. Claire's gaze lingers on the side table where my sketchbook lies open. She flips a page, ignoring my stiff posture. "You're so talented," she says absently, eyes already elsewhere. "Still drawing those modern lines, so confident." She says, confident like it's a flaw. When she leaves 20 minutes later, the house smells faintly of her perfume and judgment. I lock the door, lean against it, and let out a low breath. This neighborhood is a stage, and every woman here is auditioning for a role she already despises. I pour myself the wine I resisted earlier and step onto the porch. Across the street, Jennifer and Lauren, my former brunch companions, are standing by a mailbox, pretending to discuss landscaping while clearly talking about me. I wave. They wave back with that tight-lipped politeness reserved for people who might explode. Their whispers travel faster than my texts. The next morning, I find a note in Daniel's handwriting on the kitchen counter. "Client dinner. Late. Don't wait up." The handwriting looks careless, impatient, like a man writing a memo to his assistant. I crumple it and toss it toward the recycling bin. It misses. Figures. At work, I meet clients, sketch floor plans, and answer questions about countertop durability. My designs are for people who want their kitchens to look like they don't cook. It's ironic, really. Every couple I work with talks about open concept living, as if transparency were an aesthetic rather than an ideal they abandoned years ago. During lunch, my phone buzzes. A text from Lauren. "He's at some event downtown, right?" I think Jennifer saw him with clients last night. That "I think" lands heavy. It's not curiosity, it's confirmation disguised as kindness. I reply, "Thanks for letting me know," and turn off my phone. There's a strange comfort in how predictable betrayal becomes once you stop denying its shape. By evening, Daniel's chair is empty again. I reheat leftovers, pretend the silence is peace, and draw a quick sketch of our kitchen from memory. Architects process pain through geometry. The lines calm me until I realize I've drawn our dining table from above and there's only one chair. Friday arrives with grey skies and a mood to match. I wake early, check his calendar on our shared app. 2 events marked client dinners, both blocked out with vague addresses. One in another town. Curious, I open our joint credit card statement, something I rarely bother with. Several small charges, a boutique cafe near the river, a hotel restaurant 30 miles away, and one from a Pilates studio. A Pilates studio. Daniel hasn't exercised since the wedding. That night, when he walks in near midnight, smelling faintly of cologne and effort, I'm sitting on the couch sketching elevations for a client's sunroom. He freezes, surprised to see me awake. "You're up late," he says, voice neutral. "Working," I reply. "How was your dinner?" "Long. Tiresome. You know clients." He smiles without looking at me, loosening his tie like a man shedding responsibility. "I might have to go out of town next week. Some follow-ups." "Work trip?" "Yeah, you know how it is." He kisses my forehead, a gesture so rehearsed it could be a reflex, and disappears into the shower. I stare after him, then jot down on my sketch pad: client dinners, Pilates, hotel, follow-up trip. In architecture, patterns mean something. In marriage, they mean everything. Saturday morning, the neighborhood holds its usual small-scale parade of productivity. Joggers, dog walkers, car-washing husbands pretending to enjoy chores. Jennifer waves from across the street, her smile stretched a little too wide. "You coming to brunch tomorrow?" she calls. "Maybe," I say. Translation: I'll come if I want an interrogation with eggs. At brunch, the eggs are secondary. Jennifer and Lauren sip mimosas, eyes gleaming. "We saw Daniel last night," Jennifer starts. "He looked great. That navy jacket, so professional." "Was that the dinner in Charlestown?" I ask, pretending casual. Lauren exchanges a glance with Jennifer. "Oh, I think so. Or maybe Brookline. Hard to keep track. You know how these things are." "Yes, I do. They lean in like detectives sharing a clue they barely understand." I keep my face composed, sip orange juice, and say lightly, "Good to know he's networking. Someone has to keep the mortgage in motion." They laugh, unsure if I'm joking. When I get home, I open Daniel's SUV. Architects notice details. I see things others miss. The passenger seat is reclined further than usual. There's a single long blonde hair on the headrest. I have dark brown hair. I pick it up with a tissue, stare at it, then drop it in the trash. Evidence, in its quiet form, doesn't need an audience. That evening, I tell myself I'm just going to the store. Instead, I drive toward the address from the Pilates receipt. The studio is tucked in a sleek mini-mall, surrounded by boutiques that sell candles more expensive than my shoes. Through the glass, I see rows of reformer machines gleaming under soft lights. The receptionist, a woman who looks barely old enough to vote, greets me with a practiced smile. "Hi, are you looking to sign up for a class?" "I might," I say, scanning the schedule board. "Do you have an instructor named Jess?" "Jess Hale? Sure, she's amazing, but she's out for the evening." "Too bad," I say. "I've heard great things." I glance around. Behind the counter, a phone on silent mode lights up with a notification. For a brief moment, I see the name Daniel W. across the screen before it fades. My pulse quickens. Not fear, just confirmation that my intuition is intact. I lean on the counter, my voice friendly. "Tell Jess that Sophie stopped by. Spell it however she likes. She'll know. The receptionist nods uncertainly. Outside, the parking lot is slick with drizzle, neon signs reflecting on wet pavement. I walk to my car, slide in, and sit there for a full minute, staring through the windshield. The wipers squeak once, twice. My reflection looks almost calm. I drive home slow, past the glowing windows of houses where other couples are probably watching television, laughing at sitcom reruns, believing their routines mean safety. Inside, I pour another glass of wine and open my sketchbook again. This time, I draw not walls or windows, but lines converging, perspective lines meeting at a single vanishing point. Every structure eventually narrows toward truth. When Daniel comes in near midnight, he finds me sketching at the dining table. "You're still awake," he says, surprised. "I had a thought I didn't want to lose," I answer, "about balance and proportion." He hangs his jacket, loosened tie dangling, and opens the fridge. "You didn't cook?" "I did," I say. "You missed it. It's labeled, 'For the Absent.'" He doesn't laugh. He never laughs when he's unsure if I'm joking. He pours himself water, gulps, then glances toward the living room. "Claire says we should host something soon. Keep up appearances." "Appearances of what?" He shrugs. "You know, the usual. People expect it." I study him carefully. His posture is rehearsed, like he's performing stability. "Sure," I say. "Let's give them something to talk about." He nods absently, oblivious to the layers in my words, and disappears upstairs. I listen to the creak of the floorboards overhead, each step marking a small countdown to the moment everything shifts. When the lights are off and the house goes quiet, I open my laptop, pull up the property title for the house, and stare at the section labeled Ownership. It reads, Joint Tenancy, Daniel Weston and Sophie Weston. Architects know structures fail slowly, one invisible crack at a time. But once you see the fracture, you can decide which side to keep. I close the laptop, glance toward the staircase, and whisper to the silence, "Congratulations, Daniel. You just renovated me into someone you can't afford." I wake early, before the neighborhood hums to life, before the first lawnmower revs, and before Claire's perfect SUV glides past like a patrol car for conformity. The sky is the color of unpolished metal, quiet and expectant. I make coffee, black and strong, and spread out blueprints on the kitchen table, not for a client, but for myself. Every architect secretly redesigns their own life before breakfast. Daniel's suitcase stands near the door. He's leaving today for his work trip. His tone last night carried that airy confidence of someone convinced his excuses are still believable. I trace a fingertip over the prenup document I dug out of our safe deposit box the night before. At the time, signing it seemed harmless. Claire insisted it was just a formality. But as I read through the fine print, one clause in particular hums like an electrical current. In the event of infidelity, substantiated by supporting documentation, the non-offending spouse may assume ownership of jointly held property and shared investments without contest. They meant to protect Daniel's assets. Ironically, they built me a staircase out of his arrogance. He strolls into the kitchen, phone already in hand, looking like a man with somewhere better to be. "You're up early," he says. "Got a project?" "Something like that," I reply, sipping coffee. "You packed?" "Almost. I'll be back Thursday, maybe Friday." He kisses the top of my head, the same automatic gesture as always, then grabs his suitcase. "Don't wait up." "Wouldn't dream of it," I say. He doesn't notice the edge in my voice, or pretends not to. The door shuts, and the silence that follows feels less like loneliness and more like clearance to begin. I spend the morning pretending normalcy. I check on the Beacon Hill renovation, answer client calls, and discuss cabinet finishes. But beneath that professional rhythm, my mind runs on another blueprint, one of leverage. I start with what I know. Daniel's patterns, his routines, his weaknesses. He values appearances, status, control. Take those, and he'll unravel faster than a poorly measured beam. At lunch, I make a discreet call. "Hi, this is Sophie Weston," I tell the voice on the line. "I need a private investigator for personal matters. Nothing criminal, just documentation." I make it sound bland, like I'm ordering office supplies. The investigator, a woman named Marlene, speaks with calm efficiency. We agree to meet at a cafe that afternoon. Marlene looks like someone who's seen too many truths dressed as coincidences. She slides into the booth opposite me, leather bag at her side. "You said you suspect an affair," she begins. No judgment, no sympathy. "I don't suspect," I say quietly. "I'd just like confirmation. Discretion is essential." She nods, taking notes. "Name?" "Daniel Weston. He's a financial advisor. Works out of Weston and Hale Associates." I pause. "And the possible other person, Jessica Hale." Her eyebrows lift slightly. "Same last name?" "Not related. Pilates instructor. Probably considers herself a wellness entrepreneur." I sip my coffee. "I just need time-stamped photos or records. I'm not trying to humiliate anyone. I just want clarity." She slides me a small form to sign, then says, "You'll have a first report by next week. My rate's hourly." "Send the invoice to my business account," I tell her. "Consider it part of a remodel budget." That night, the neighborhood hosts its version of entertainment, an HOA barbecue behind Lauren's house. Plastic cups, store-bought salads, and the subtle exchange of gossip disguised as compliments. I almost skip it, but appearances matter until you're ready to drop the curtain. When I arrive, Jennifer waves me over, already glowing from one too many margaritas. "Sophie, over here." The group circles me like friendly sharks. "Where's Daniel?" she asks, feigning innocence. "Work trip," I say. "He'll be gone a few days." "Again?" Lauren's tone drips with interest. "He's really dedicated. You must miss him." "Not as much as you'd think," I reply sweetly. A few of them laugh, unsure if they're allowed to. Claire appears minutes later, as if summoned by the scent of social hierarchy. She's wearing her HOA president's smile, polished and sharp. "Everyone's asking about Daniel," she says, looping her arm through mine. "He's at that client retreat, right? So responsible." "Yes, Claire," I say. "You trained him well." Her eyes flick toward me, registering the barb. I hold her gaze, smiling. Later, as the crowd gathers near the grill, I overhear Jennifer whispering, "She's pretending nothing's wrong. So brave." Brave, suburban code for pitied. I turn away before the laugh slips out. Let them think what they want. They'll learn soon enough that silence doesn't mean surrender. By the time I leave, the streetlights glow soft gold over manicured lawns. I drive home slowly, passing Daniel's SUV in the driveway and wondering how many lies that car has carried. Inside, I open my laptop, create a new folder labeled Blueprint Phase 1, and drop the prenup scans and my notes into it. I title one document, Ownership Transfer Draft. Architects, like tangible progress. Tuesday brings drizzle and the faint metallic scent of rain. I sit at my drafting table, sketching, while listening to Marlene's first voicemail. He left early this morning with a gym bag, drove west toward the coast, checked into the Sandport Resort around 3. Room registered under his name, with an additional guest. You were right. Hearing it doesn't sting the way I thought it would. It's more like seeing the final inspection report on a structure you already knew was failing. Necessary, inevitable. I call her back. Keep going, I say. Get photographs, dates, times. That evening, I pass by the Pilates studio again. The windows glow warm against the grey sky. Through the glass, I catch a glimpse of Jess, tall, fit, hair swept up in that effortless way that takes half an hour. She's laughing with a client, her voice carrying across the sidewalk. It's not jealousy I feel. It's calculation. Every person has an entry point, a weakness. Hers is attention. Take it away, and she'll crumble. Back home, I sit at the kitchen table, spread out papers, statements, property deeds, the prenup clause highlighted in yellow. My fingers trace the edges like a map to freedom. For years, Daniel made me believe control was his language. Turns out paperwork is mine. The phone buzzes, a text from Claire. Just checking in. How's everything? Need me to handle anything while Daniel's away? I stare at the message. She's not asking out of kindness. She's checking the stability of her investment. I type back, everything's under control. Then after a moment, I add, more than you know. Wednesday night, the drizzle turns to heavy rain. I'm driving home from a site visit when I spot a familiar SUV ahead, Daniel's. He's supposed to be out of town. My pulse steadies. Focused, not frantic. I keep my headlights on low and trail him through the wet streets, wipers squeaking. He turns onto Oak Terrace, a quiet row of townhouses. I park 2 cars back, engine idling, rain drumming against the roof. He steps out, casual, carrying a takeout bag and a small overnight case. The sight feels surreal, not painful, just absurd. My husband, the self-proclaimed man of numbers and principles, sneaking around like a teenager in borrowed confidence. He knocks twice on a door. It opens. Jess stands there in leggings and a sweatshirt, hair damp, smile practiced. He leans in, hand brushing her back as they step inside. I note the unit number, the time, the takeout brand. Precision is comfort. When you build anything, house, plan, revenge, you measure twice. On the drive home, I rehearse my next steps. There's no screaming confrontation in this version. No dramatic chase through traffic, just paperwork, patience, and strategy. By the time I pull into our driveway, I already know the headline of my next chapter. Inside, the house feels different, emptier, but strangely lighter, like it's siding with me now. I wipe rain from my coat, pour tea, and open my laptop. I draft an email to my attorney, requesting a confidential review of marital assets and prenup clause enforcement options. Please prepare preliminary documents, no filings yet. I attach the scans. Before bed, I slide a blank envelope into the desk drawer, the same kind used for official notices. On the front, I write in pencil, for Daniel. Not tonight, not tomorrow, but soon. Lying in the dark, I listen to the rain. Somewhere, Daniel is telling Jess she understands him better than anyone. He's wrong. I understand him perfectly. I designed his life. Now I'm redrawing it. Tomorrow, I'll pick up the investigator's report. Tomorrow, I'll start the real work. Because when you spend your days building perfect structures, you learn the most satisfying part isn't construction. It's demolition. Planned, controlled, and absolutely justified. Daniel's text comes at noon on Monday. Gone for a week, work trip, don't wait up. No flight numbers, no details, just a bland confidence that I've started to recognize as his default. 6 days, he says. Specific, intentional. As if a calendar block could justify anything. I stare at it, letting it linger on my screen. There is no panic in me, only clarity. I leave the phone on the counter and walk through the house as though it is unoccupied. The hum of the refrigerator, the subtle creak in the stairs, even the gentle tick of the clock feels louder without his presence to compete. This is my opportunity, the quiet before the storm. For 6 days, I plan to gather every detail, every measure, every oversight he left exposed. Architects notice details, patterns, weaknesses, and I've spent years learning his. Day 1, I throw myself into work. My clients have no idea that the woman checking the structural integrity of their kitchens is simultaneously analyzing a structure much more fragile. My marriage. The contractor calls me Mom 3 times in a row, trying to be polite, unaware that politeness is now my ally. I sip my coffee and run a pencil along the floor plan of a kitchen in Beacon Hill, sketching the way a door frame meets the wall. Inwardly, I imagine Daniel and Jess, the trajectory of their week. Each line on my pad is a mental map of leverage, each angle a reminder that preparation matters more than confrontation. On day 2, Claire calls. The timing is predictable. Daniel's doing some important networking this week, she says, voice dripping sugar. You might feel left out. Don't worry, these things matter for his career. I sip my tea slowly. Does he plan to text his wife during this vital networking? He's under pressure, Claire answers, as if pressure absolves lying. Try to be supportive. Always, I say, and hang up. She's checking the stability of her investment, not my well-being. I place the phone on the counter and return to my sketches. Architects never rush. Everything has a measurement. Everything has a margin of error. Day 3 is quieter, or at least it appears so. Marlene, my private investigator, calls with the first report. You might want to sit down, she says. I remain standing, leaning against the counter. Go ahead, I reply. He's at the Sandport Resort, checked in under his name with one Jessica Hale. Beachfront room. I have photos. I don't flinch. I don't feel the thrill people expect. Instead, I run a finger along the edge of the counter. Send them, I say. There is a pause. Are you sure? Yes. Later, the photos arrive in my inbox. Daniel and Jess, smiling, sun on their shoulders, the ocean a benign witness behind them. He's laughing at something she said, hand resting casually at her waist. The intimacy is polite, almost performative, yet it confirms everything my instincts suspected. I study the images, noting the timestamps, the angle of the sun, the reflection of a resort bell in his sunglasses. This is not spectacle. This is intelligence gathering. I make a note in my planner. Day 3 is now marked confirmation. I don't need outrage, I need facts. Day 4, I print the prenup clause. I circle the section labelled, in the event of infidelity, substantiated by supporting documentation, the non-offending spouse may assume ownership of jointly held property and shared investments without contest. 2 highlighters later, the clause dominates the page. I slide the printout into a clean manila envelope and add the beach photos. Precision matters. Documents in order. Evidence visible but not dramatic. Strategy, not theatrics. I drive slowly to the grocery store later that day, but I'm not shopping. I stop near the Pilates studio where Jess works. My boots crunch over wet gravel. The air smells faintly of rain and recently cut grass. I park around the corner, under the dim glow of a street lamp, and watch. Through the glass, I see her finishing a class. Her body is poised, deliberate, graceful, but her head tilts at a phone vibration. Daniel's name flashes. He is in the picture behind her, not present, yet present enough. I make a note of timing, movement, and angles. Observation, not interference. By day 5, the neighborhood is an orchestra of curiosity. Jennifer texts, "You won't believe this." Lauren calls me twice, pretending to ask for architectural advice, clearly fishing for information. I reply carefully, "Oh, do tell," letting them infer what they wish. The beauty of gossip is that it amplifies without effort. I do not need to push. Later that day, I enter the Pilates studio. Jess is finishing her client consultations. I approach, calm, every step measured. "Jessica Hale?" "Yes?" Her voice carries practiced amusement. "I'm Sophie, Daniel's wife." Her smile falters, but only for a second. "Oh, I see. There's a misunderstanding. Usually there is," I interrupt. I hold up my phone, sliding the beach photo across the screen so it's visible, but not aggressive. This isn't a threat, just a fact. Any continued contact with my husband after formal notice could have legal consequences. I wanted to deliver that verbally. Her lips part. I'm informing you," I continue, voice low, calm. "Consider it a professional courtesy. This neighborhood eats reputations faster than it burns calories. Walk carefully. I step closer. My hand brushes lightly over the counter, near her keys, resting there for a beat. Nice car. I'd hate to see it embarrassed. The implication hangs in the air, heavy and precise. No damage, only potential. I turn to leave, glancing briefly at the receptionist. Tell her Sophie says hi. Spell it however she likes. She'll know. The receptionist nods, too polite to react beyond a tight-lipped acknowledgement. The walk back to my car is intentional. Every step measured, boots damp on asphalt. My pulse hums, not excitement, not fear, but alert, calculated. This is chess, not checkers. Day 6 dawns. Daniel strolls through the front door at 8 in the evening, the smugness of a man who believes in his own cleverness intact. He smiles, throws a casual glance toward the dining room, and drops his keys on the counter. You should be grateful I'm back, he says. A lot of women would have given up on a husband who works this hard. I look up from my sketches, calm, my tone even neutral. Thank you, but this house isn't yours anymore. He blinks. What? I slide the envelope across the table. Not aggressively, not theatrically, just facts. Documents neatly stacked. Notarized transfer of house, car, joint investments, signed under the prenup clause he agreed to years ago, and the beach photos. His face drains, the color leaving as if it were a negotiable asset. Where did you, how? You signed it, I say. Clause 17, Claire insisted. Infidelity allows the non-offending spouse to assume ownership of shared assets. I'm merely exercising rights granted to me in writing. You're not being robbed. You're just late to compliance. He shakes his head. You can't. I already did, I correct him. Everything listed here. House, car, investments. Transferred to me. Not optional. Not negotiable. His hands tremble slightly as he grabs the envelope, flips through it. Claire will fix this, he whispers. Oh, she already tried, I say, tilting my head. Funny enough, she drafted the clause herself. You two built a fortress and left the back door open. Minutes pass. His mind races. I sip water. Architects are patient. Structures are patient. Foundations settle. Claire barges in, pearls and power armor at the ready. Sophie, this is insane. You can't do this. Daniel points to the envelope. Look, she's gone mad. Claire flips through the documents. Her face pales. You can't, I step forward, calm. Actually, Claire, you can. The law, the prenup, your own signature. You left me the tools. I used them. She shakes, lips pressed tight. You're cruel. I'm thorough, I reply. You tried to refinance me out of my own house. I merely anticipated the plan. Her hands drop. Daniel's gaze flickers between us. Claire's plan, meant to protect her brother, has backfired spectacularly. I watch them process the collapse. Pride, ambition, social leverage, crumbled. By the end of the night, Daniel sits on the couch, bag of excuses empty. Claire retreats, defeated, plotting her exit. Jess's involvement will be addressed later. I lean back, sip the remaining wine, and watch the rain streak against the window. 6 days of observation, calculation, preparation, and the foundation of control is mine. Every step measured, every line drawn, every pattern anticipated. Tomorrow I begin phase 2, social demolition. Because in this neighborhood, losing money isn't what destroys people. Losing control and reputation does, and I am fully armed with both. The morning after Daniel's return, the house hums differently. The air feels lighter, as though the walls themselves recognize a shift in control. Daniel moves around like someone who has been dethroned but refuses to admit it. His steps are purposeful, yet uncertain, hands brushing against surfaces that now belong exclusively to me. I watch him from the kitchen, sipping coffee, noting the way he hesitates near the refrigerator before opening it, like a man negotiating a space that is no longer his. Outside, The cul-de-sac hums with its usual Sunday rhythm. Sprinklers hiss, mailboxes creak, the occasional mower drone breaks the otherwise calm suburban bubble. But beneath it, I sense attention. Neighbors peek from behind blinds, glance at cars, nod at each other knowingly. Briar Lane has noticed the shift, even if no one speaks it aloud. Claire calls first thing in the morning. "You need to calm down," she hisses over the phone, pearls of panic threading her voice. Daniel's reputation is at risk. He can't afford gossip. "Then maybe he shouldn't supply it," I reply. My tone is even, controlled. Calm doesn't just disarm, it shapes the battlefield. "Be reasonable. You're embarrassing yourself." I take a slow sip of coffee. "Actually, Claire, I'm thriving. Embarrassment is your department." I hang up before she can object further, because arguing with panic is like trying to measure a house during an earthquake. By mid-morning, I drive deliberately past the Pilates studio where Jess works. The rain from yesterday has left the air sharp and wet, the concrete dark and glistening. Her white SUV sits in the lot, polished and smug. I park a block away, retrieve my tool bag from the back seat, a casual architect's kit, ordinary to anyone else. Inside, chalk, zip ties, and a bright orange contractor tag. Tools of preparation, not of destruction. The sidewalks are empty. I step carefully, gloves on, drawing lines in my mind as much as in the chalk. Every movement is deliberate, crouching, stretching, ensuring I am unobserved. I approach the SUV. The hood gleams under street lamps, and I bend to write, each letter crisp and readable. "Loner husbands return inside." The chalk squeaks under my hand, precise and theatrical without being permanent. I attach the bright orange contractor tag to the door handle. Notice of unpermitted occupancy. Not illegal, not violent, just enough to sow doubt. The complex is strict. Even the smallest infraction will spark curiosity. Jess will notice. That's all I need. A neighbor steps out with trash, sees me for half a second. I flatten against the wall, breath even, heart steady. She glances, shrugs, returns inside. Perfect. Timing and concealment are part of my arsenal. By the time I return to my car, my pulse hums, not with fear, not with exhilaration, but satisfaction. Phase 1 of social disruption is complete. Back home, the neighborhood's gossip network activates almost immediately. Jennifer texts, "You won't believe what happened to that Pilates woman." Lauren calls, feigning concern. Her clients are cancelling left and right. "Are you okay with this?" I type back, casual. Wouldn't I? Every message is a confirmation. Control is subtle, but devastating. Daniel storms into the kitchen soon after, the familiar rush of anger and disbelief trailing him like a shadow. "You vandalized her property," he shouts. "Vandalized?" I repeat, arching an eyebrow. That's a strong word for washable chalk. "You're ruining my career," he yells, voice echoing against walls that no longer bend to his presence. I pour coffee into a clean mug, lifting it as if his outburst is merely background noise. "No, Daniel, you're just meeting it without the benefit of rehearsal." He slams a cabinet door, storming upstairs in a flurry. The kitchen settles back into silence. Even without his presence, the room feels full of possibility. By late afternoon, the HOA summer party begins at Lauren's backyard. A plastic-laden wonderland of pastel cups, kiddie pools, and forced small talk. I arrive casually, jeans and linen blouse, hair pulled back but not overly styled, controlled and unassuming. I carry a bowl of guacamole that no one will eat, but everyone will compliment. Details, impressions, they matter more than flavor. The moment I step onto the patio, the hum of gossip shifts. Heads turn, eyes track my movements. Even the neighbors who are pretending to ignore me are curious. Jennifer waves me over, her smile tight with anticipation. Claire appears minutes later, pale but stiff, a human measuring tool trying to assert authority. She scans the crowd, calculating where allegiances might lie, before locking her gaze on me. Daniel arrives 20 minutes in, attempting charm. Too loud, too deliberate. Every laugh, every handshake, every nod is a rehearsed performance. He does not notice the subtle glances of disapproval directed his way. He has lost control, and it is delicious to watch. I settle near the punch table, pretending to pour myself a drink, casual, relaxed, as though I belonged to this neighborhood perfectly, effortlessly. Then, at precisely the right moment, I select a photo from my phone, the resort image of Daniel and Jess, smiles broad, sunlight glinting off the pool water. I airdrop it to Jennifer with an innocent smile. "Look what I found," I say silently. The phone pings. She gasps quietly. Within minutes, the photograph travels like wildfire across devices, whispered in hallways and reflected in glass doors. Lauren's husband murmurs, "Is that?" Someone whispers, "Oh my gosh." The subtle power shift is instantaneous. The room tightens, curiosity mounting into tangible tension. Claire's smile falters. Her entire plan, the plan to orchestrate Daniel's professional and social shield, collapses in seconds. I walk to the side yard, pretending to adjust a potted plant, and Claire follows. "You're out of line," she hisses, voice clipped, veins of panic visible. I tilt my head. "I'm not out of line. You should ask yourself who built the line I'm walking on." Daniel appears behind her, red-faced, desperate to reclaim some shred of dignity. "Stop it," he demands. "Stop what?" I ask softly. "Revealing the truth?" Too late, she snaps at me, trying to control the narrative. "You can't." "You did," I say. "You tried to refinance me out of my own house while conspiring to keep me distracted. I merely anticipated the plan." Daniel grabs my arm, low and frantic. "You'll regret this," he hisses. I step back, raising my voice just enough for nearby neighbors to hear. "You grabbed me." "Back up." Heads turn, conversations halt mid-sentence. Even the partygoers pretending to trim hedges are leaning slightly, pretending to be nonchalant while absorbing the spectacle. Daniel freezes, hands raised, caught between aggression and social scrutiny. I walk past him, calm, poised. "Enjoy the tacos, everyone," I say, voice light. "They're excellent." The social machinery hums in response. Whispers circulate, eyes flicker. The neighborhood witnesses the collapse of Daniel's projected authority in real time. Claire's calculations, once flawless, now misfire spectacularly. Later, the street glows with porch lights. The sprinklers hiss in mechanical rhythm, washing the cul-de-sac in neon reflections. Claire storms back to her SUV, muttering, phone in hand. Daniel lingers at the edge of the driveway, flustered, unsure of the ground beneath him. Inside, I sit at the dining table, drafting a new file. Phase 3, collapse. Inside, Claire's voicemail bragging about refinancing me out of my own home. Evidence ready, consequences anticipated. I pour a glass of wine, step onto the porch, and let the cool rain dampen my hair. The sprinklers continue their pattern across every perfect lawn. It is methodical, predictable, necessary. Briar Lane is mine, not through destruction, but through anticipation, intelligence, and precision. And for the first time in years, I feel its subtle shift. The cul-de-sac watches. The cul-de-sac waits. And they will continue to watch, for they now know the difference between someone who reacts and someone who designs. Monday morning arrives with the quiet hum of an unsettled street. The sprinklers hiss across the lawns. The children chatter on their way to school. And the neighbors glance from their windows like audience members at a theater, waiting for the next act to begin. Daniel moves through our house with the certainty of a man who believes control is something inherent, as if walls, furniture, and even floorboards naturally bend to his will. I watch him from the kitchen, coffee in hand, tracing the rim of the mug. Every step he takes is calculated, and yet every step he takes is wrong. He doesn't notice the subtle glances of neighbors across the street or the light twitch of blinds. They are watching, and soon they will witness the conclusion. Inside the kitchen, Daniel paces, muttering under his breath. He clutches the small duffel bag he has been carrying since his 6-day absence, as if the bag itself contains the last remnants of his authority. His laptop sits open on the counter, a glowing dashboard of numbers that no longer belong to him. I let him stew for a moment, observing the twitch in his jaw, the way his fingers drumming on the table betray his panic. By 10 a.m., I meet with Mr. Grant, my lawyer, in his office. He is the sort of man who collects pens as if they are heirlooms and measures every word for weight and precision. We spread the documents across his polished desk, notarized transfers, signed statements, and, of course, the prenup clause that forms the legal backbone of everything. Everything checks out, he says, scanning the papers. Clause 17 is binding. He can protest, but the evidence is clear, indisputable. I nod, calm. I'd like to finalize the transfer this week. He raises an eyebrow, impressed but cautious. Most people panic in situations like this. I'm not most people, I reply evenly. Architects don't panic. We measure twice, cut once, and plan for what can't be measured. The drive home is quiet, meditative. The rain from the previous night has left the streets glossy, reflections of the streetlights dancing on the asphalt, like the subtle tracking of a camera. My mind is a careful checklist of next moves: financial control, social leverage, psychological pressure, and neighborhood optics. I do not rush. Precision demands patience. Inside, Daniel sits at the kitchen table, his eyes darting between his laptop and the envelope on the counter. He speaks, his voice tight. You froze the accounts. Yes, I say, leaning against the doorway, coffee in hand. Prenup clause allows it once infidelity is substantiated. You can't live like this, Sophie. You need me, he says, attempting authority. Do I counter. From where I'm standing, the house runs on electricity, not ego. His nostrils flare, and he rises from the chair. You're overreacting. You've said that before, I remind him. Right before every decision you called harmless blew up in your favor. Only this time, it doesn't. He huffs, running a hand through his hair. The tension in his body is palpable, and yet he is trapped within my space. He cannot escalate the situation without creating witnesses, and that is where I have the advantage. Later, Claire appears. She doesn't knock. She doesn't announce herself. She storms in, pearls now replaced with something less decorative but more practical: panic. Sophie, you've gone too far, she snaps, voice tight with urgency. Daniel points toward the envelope. Look, she's out of control. Claire grabs the papers, flipping through the documents with disbelief. Her color drains as she realizes the inevitability of what has been executed. You can't, I can, I say simply. You drafted the clause yourself. You left me the tools. I merely followed through. Her hands shake, lips pressed tight. Daniel's gaze shifts between us, disbelief morphing into anger, then into something like terror. Claire had plotted to refinance the house, siphon equity, and leave me without resources. The revelation is instantaneous. Her plan, meant to secure her brother, has backfired spectacularly. You're enjoying this, Claire accuses, voice breaking. No, I correct her calmly. I'm finishing it. Daniel's attempts at authority are faltering. He paces near the counter, gestures erratic, muttering, You'll regret this. Both of you. Everyone will see. Already do, I respond. They are witnesses to everything you tried to hide, and you didn't measure the social consequences correctly. The afternoon unfolds as a careful orchestration of public and private domination. I make calls, carefully neutral, to neighborhood influencers, Jennifer, Lauren, and a few select others whose observations will amplify the effect. Messages arrive on my phone, confirming the rapid spread of the news. My control over perception is as critical as my legal ownership. Reputation is the currency Daniel spent recklessly. By late afternoon, Jess arrives at my doorstep. I have been expecting her. I step forward, standing in the frame of the door, casual but unyielding. "Sophie," she begins, voice tight. "This has gone too far." I study her carefully, noting the subtle tremble in her fingers, the way her posture shifts with each measured breath. "Meaning?" I ask, calm and deliberate. "You humiliated me. Clients cancelled. You're ruining my business." "You built your business on charm," I say evenly, seemingly unbreakable until you underestimated consequences. Her jaw tightens, lips pressed in that perfected thin line. "You think you've won?" "This isn't a contest," I say. "It's a correction." She steps closer, perhaps to intimidate, or perhaps out of frustration. I raise a hand, not in threat but as a firm boundary, and catch her wrist mid-motion. "Do not," I say softly. "I do not strike, I design. There is a difference." Her wrist trembles under my grip. I release it gently. "Please leave my property," I say, voice now audible to the neighbors pretending to trim hedges across the street. Jess steps back, flushed, frustrated, powerless. "You'll regret this," she hisses. "I doubt it," I say, closing the door, leaving her standing in the drizzle. By evening, Daniel packs a small duffel bag, finally realizing that the fortress he built in his mind has crumbled. He throws the bag over his shoulder and mutters, "You can't push me out." "I'm not pushing," I say. "I am reclaiming space." His face darkens, pride giving way to comprehension. "You'll ruin both of us." "Only if you remain," I counter. He pauses in the doorway, weighing options that do not exist. The culmination of 6 days of planning, observation, and precision has left him exposed. His power has dissipated in the same quiet, calculated way he tried to mask it. I walk through the house slowly, touching edges of furniture, cold glass of picture frames, polished countertops. Every detail belongs to me now, not because of papers alone, but because I chose to maintain composure, strategy, and foresight. I open the folder labeled Final Draft, Western Assets, review the notarized transfers, then close it with deliberate finality. The neighborhood has witnessed his unraveling, his helplessness, and the subtle orchestration of social and legal collapse. The sprinklers hiss again outside, the cul-de-sac glimmering under the streetlights. The order of control, the dominance of preparation, and the careful weaving of consequences have brought Daniel and Claire to the edge. I pour a glass of wine, step onto the porch, and watch the light refract on the wet asphalt. Every footprint, every glimmer, every whisper is aligned with intention. The cul-de-sac recognizes it, even if silently. I have designed the structure. They have walked into it unawares. And tomorrow, the final act begins. Because losing money is seldom fatal. Losing control, influence, and dignity in a community that thrives on perception, that is irreversible. And I, architect of consequences, will ensure it is complete. By Wednesday night, Briar Lane hums softly under the rain. The sprinklers hiss across the lawns, reflecting streetlights like little streams of silver. Even the houses seem aware. The angles of their shutters, the way the light bends across polished wood, acknowledging that the balance has shifted. Inside, my home feels lighter, steadier, aligned. The air is measured, deliberate, and yet there is tension, an undercurrent that only I recognize. I sit at the dining table, the rain drumming softly against the windows, sketchbook open before me. This isn't for work. There's no client, no blueprint, no budget, but it keeps my hands occupied, my mind focused. Lines converge, angles intersect, shadows cut across empty spaces. They form a quiet rhythm, a map of everything that must happen tonight. Daniel is predictable. He cannot resist attempting control one last time. I hear the side door creak first, soft but distinct. Not a stumble, not a mistake. Precise, deliberate. The kind of sound someone confident in their own entitlement assumes is unnoticed. I don't flinch. I've been expecting this. He steps inside, raincoat dripping, hair plastered to his forehead. His face is drawn tight, confidence attempting to mask something he cannot articulate. He scans the room, takes in the sketches, the open envelope on the table, the quiet lighting. "We need to talk," he says. Calm. Too calm. "We already did," I answer, not moving. He drops the gym bag he has carried like a talisman. "You went too far. You humiliated me. Claire, Jess, everyone. People are talking." "They'd have nothing to talk about if you hadn't given them material," I reply, tone smooth, neutral. Calmness is a weapon here. He doesn't understand yet that his social and financial collapse is orchestrated. "I'm not leaving," he insists, taking a step forward. "We're not negotiating," I say. "I've executed the plan. The house, the car, the investments, they are legally mine. Optionality no longer applies." His eyes flicker to the envelope on the table. Inside, notarized transfer papers, signed and final. Beside it, the beach photos, time-stamped, evidence of his infidelity. He swallows. The arrogance is cracking. "You think a few papers can erase me?" he mutters. "No," I answer, voice calm. "But they make you optional. And optional is not the same as necessary." He paces, slow, calculating, trying to find leverage that does not exist. I remain seated, coffee in hand, noting his gestures, his patterns, his desperation. Every step he takes reinforces my design. He stops, abruptly. "You can't do this to me." "I am not doing anything to you. You did this to yourself," I reply. "I merely activated the consequences. You left the doors open. I walked through them." The clock ticks softly, punctuating our standoff. Outside, the rain continues its measured rhythm. The cul-de-sac is quiet, yet alive. Every house a spectator, every window a witness. Daniel raises his voice, frustration cracking through the veneer of control. "You're overstepping. People will talk. You'll regret this." "Regret is subjective," I say. "I've measured everything. There is nothing left to chance." He lunges toward the envelope, fingers stretching to snatch it. I remain calm, hand resting lightly on my sketchbook. He hesitates, caught between aggression and the awareness that the neighborhood may be watching. I step toward the sliding door, slightly ajar. "Daniel, leave now," I say, loud enough for anyone outside to hear. "Do not make me involve witnesses." The first porch light across the street flicks on, then another. Shadowy figures appear behind curtains. The rain reflects on asphalt, illuminating their silhouettes. The weight of observation presses against Daniel's shoulders. His confidence wavers. He freezes. A hand on the doorframe, another on the envelope. He glances at the sprinklers, the reflections, the watching windows. This is his lowest point. All the tools he relied on, his charm, his social grace, his supposed dominance, are irrelevant here. "You told me to be grateful you came back," I say, stepping fully into the doorway. "I am. You handed me every reason I needed to let you go." He blinks, caught between fury and comprehension. Rain runs down his coat in slow rivulets. His duffel bag sits heavy at his side, a symbol of all he miscalculated. I take a slow step forward, letting the distance close without threatening, letting the rain and observation amplify his awareness. "This house isn't yours anymore, Daniel. Every choice you made, every lie, every absence, it all led here. And now, you have nothing left to negotiate with." He tries to speak, but the words falter. Pride is futile, when every neighbor who matters has already witnessed the cracks in the facade. I move to the envelope on the table, slide it toward him with one hand, then point to the phone in the other. Everything documented, witnesses, legal transfer, and the resort photos, all time-stamped. Everything is transparent. You have no leverage, no allies, no house, no car, no investments. Optionality is gone. He glances at the phone, sees the notifications, the recorded voicemail from Claire bragging about refinancing the house behind my back. His jaw tightens. For a moment, he looks like a man unmoored, standing in a space where nothing bends to his will. I step fully into the rain now, leaving the door open to amplify the spectacle. Step outside, Daniel. Walk the distance between what you thought you owned and the reality of your actions. He hesitates, fingers tightening on the duffel bag strap. His eyes flicker toward the cul-de-sac. Lights blink on. Shadows move. The audience is real. This is no longer private. Social perception is a wall, and he cannot climb it. With a muttered curse, he steps into the drizzle. Each step toward the sidewalk is slow, measured by fear and realization. Sprinklers hiss. Asphalt reflects neon reflections. Windows follow every movement. His duffel bag seems heavier than it should, the weight of accountability pressing down. I remain on the porch, lamp on, hair damp from the rain, jacket soaked but neat. Coffee cup in hand, everything deliberate. The narrative of the cul-de-sac, the story of perfection, control, and social hierarchy, is now mine. I am the apex, calm and collected. Daniel fumbles with the car. The fob fails. The car no longer responds. I smile faintly, knowing I handled that detail hours ago. The car is legally mine, programmed and controlled. He slams the door in frustration. Sprinklers hiss on, washing the driveway, reflecting his retreat. He walks down the street, gym bag over his shoulder, soaked and impotent. He turns once, perhaps hoping for a last plea or mercy. There is none. The neighborhood watches. Briar Lane is silent but alive. His defeat is public and absolute. I step back inside, closing the sliding door. The house hums with alignment, each surface, each fixture, each shadow acknowledging its rightful owner. I walk through room by room, touching polished countertops, edges of furniture, window frames. Every inch resonates with intentionality. In the living room, I set down the envelope, slide the folder into the drawer. Final draft, Western Assets. The letters gleam under the soft lamplight. Everything measured, everything executed, everything final. I walk to the porch once more, glass of wine in hand. Rain has slowed to drizzle, sprinklers still hissing. The reflection of light and water mirrors every calculated choice, every measured risk, every anticipation that brought us to this night. I sip the wine. The cul-de-sac exhales collectively, quietly, unknowingly. Briar Lane will remember the night its most confident husband was made optional, his social and financial authority stripped without a single dramatic gesture of violence, without screaming, without a scene. The final act has concluded. Daniel is gone, wet and humbled, carrying the last weight of his own mistakes down the street. Claire is defeated, Jess humiliated, the neighborhood witnesses a carefully orchestrated, unassailable victory. I set the wine down, lean against the railing, and watch the street in quiet triumph. The sprinklers hiss, the reflections shimmer, and the air is crisp, clean, and mine. The house is quiet, the street is quiet, and finally, I am quiet too, not triumphant, not vindictive, not satisfied in a petty sense. Calm, steady, complete. Briar Lane is mine, and tonight, the house remembers.